Well, let's welcome you to our signature interview. And see the white first. We have an interesting gentleman in the studio today, simply called MD Shehu, but full name Mohammed Bello Shehu. Mohammed Bello Shehu is a public affairs analyst, of course. He intervenes in issues in the polity, but he has particular interest in good governance in Africa because he believes that if the procedure for choosing leaders in Africa is followed conscientiously and the right people emerge, African governments, African societies will improve sooner than later. Let's, on your behalf, welcome him to our signature interview. Bello,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Morning.
You're welcome. Incidentally, we're welcoming you at a time politics is thick in the air, and Nigerians, in a couple of days to come, will be heading to the polls for the presidential and National Assembly elections. It may not be late, but first, what should be driving the campaign toward these elections?
Well, I thank you sincerely for giving me this opportunity to say a word or two on what is going on in Nigeria. I think ideally, I mean, when you are this couple of days before the elections, which is coming up February 16th, I think Nigerians and all of us voters should concern ourselves with what are those things that the respective candidates that are running for office are going to do that will enhance the quality of leadership in Nigeria and will create a better society for all Nigerians. That means that every aspirant should discuss what he or she is going to do. If you are running for House of Representative, I mean, what are the laws or what are the areas that you feel you can contribute to make life meaningful for our people? If you are running for Senate, the same thing. And of course, if you are running for president, what are your plans to make Nigeria what Nigeria ought to be? So in other words, issues that really can enhance the quality of leadership in Nigeria. Not only the quality of leadership, but the material condition of the people must be, seems to be improved using policies that, that can help the nation grow and make Nigeria to be where Nigeria ought to be. You know, over the years, every leader or every person that has come when discussing Nigeria, they will say potentially great, potentially great. So we want a situation where we will have those leaders that can bring out that potentiality and make it into reality. And without being accused of being too partisan, I will say the current administration, with all the challenges that it has faced, since when the administration took office in 2015, did very well in terms of the resources they met on the ground and the condition of the country that they met on the ground. Why I like to say this in any opportunity that I have, I look at the earnings of previous administration. When President Jonathan was there, between the time he assumed office to the time he left, which was just about a period of 5 years or 5.5, in terms of crude oil revenue alone, he had almost 400 billion US dollars. That's really a substantial amount of money. But under this administration, within 4 years, they were only able from crude oil revenue to get about 118 billion. That's so remarkable because it's like when you compare ratio-wise, it's like 3 to 1. And I don't know why the information system within the presidency is not emphasizing this to Nigerians to show them the level of revenue that has plummeted when he came into power. If you recall, crude oil was selling almost at 100, average of $100 under the previous administration. But when the recession hit just before, on the eve of the current president taking over, this thing went all the way down to like, I think, $28 per barrel. And then shortly after he was sworn in, there was a period when pipes were being blown by militants and production went down from 2.1 million barrel to, I think, somewhere around 500,000 barrels per day. And that has substantially cut down on the amount of money that comes in into the government. Now, look, we can say yes, when he came in, he knew there are problems, there are challenges. What is it that they have done to really tackle some of these challenges?
We'll come to that.
Yes.
You know that every government is a team.
Yeah.
And the position of a member of the team can affect the perception of the people of that government. I want to draw your attention to two members of the current team.
Yes.
Rotimi Amechi of Rivers State.
Yes.
Fashola of Lagos State.
Yes.
In the previous administration, then Minister of Finance, Okonjo-Iweala, warned this country that the fortunes of the nation in terms of oil prices were looking bleak.
Yes.
And that there was a need to create a financial buffer.
Yes.
Such that whoever is in power would have resources to keep running the country.
Yes.
These two gentlemen, Rotimi Amechi of Rivers State,
Yes.
Fashola of Lagos State,
Yes.
headed to the court.
Yes.
They insisted that the money belonged to the federal government and therefore the money should be shared out.
Yes.
Today, the government is suffering lack of resources arising from that refusal to create a buffer.
Yeah, well, that could be, yeah, it's public knowledge. I'm aware of that. But you can also spin it around. They headed to court. And you know, when you go to court, you know, these issues take time. I will think that if I were in charge as the president of the country then, I will think that he will have to use every available diplomacy to get to these people to a round table to make sure they don't proceed with their lawsuits, bringing out all the necessary indices and facts so that they can understand that the collective well-being of the nation is bigger than individual interests of states, simply because Rivers and Lagos, you know, are considered oil or oil revenue rich states. You know, the president could have tried as much as possible using whatever means he can, using the elders and other things to intervene, cajole, and talk to them. You know, this is what I had expected them to do, not to cry after the fact. And even he himself, what was in the collective foreign reserve, which was like 40-something billion, and they just went on spending spree. This thing was like down to about 24. And out of this 24 that remained, there were other commitments and loans and debts, you know, that they said they paid to import rice, to do this, to do that. So many things were done wrongly. So it appears Ngozi was a loner in the government. She was pinpointing this thing to the president, but the president probably didn't take it that serious, and the governors exploited that and went to court and had the money, and the money was gone.
I think the Nigerians are more concerned about the present.
Yes.
We're heading to the polls in the next 5 days, 4 days in fact. And some people are still sitting on the fence.
Yes.
Some, in fact, may switch position.
Yes.
Do you think there is a genuine reason why Nigerians should cast their ballot for Muhammad Buhari? I ask you this question because I also have looked through who you are. You're a supporter of the Buhari. You're a sympathizer.
And a supporter,
And a
yes.
supporter.
Yes.
So why should any Nigerian cast his ballot for Muhammad Buhari?
Wow, that's a big question. I will say to Nigerians, are we better off now than we were 4 years ago? When the president came in, he campaigned on 3 cardinal principles, which was security, anti-corruption, and the economy. Now, all these 3 important areas that I mentioned were areas that were considered to be like sick, very sick, when you look at the security aspect. Nigeria was considered a no-go area. Even among Nigerians, you here in Abuja, you don't want to go to Kano or Kaduna or Maiduguri. In fact, there was no flight even to Maiduguri. Boko Haram was on rampage. They were attacking churches. They were attacking mosques. They were attacking motor parks. They were attacking markets.
International organizations.
And international organizations. And they were bold enough to say they were even attacking military headquarters. Because police headquarters. And they were attacking prominent Nigerians. I mean, Muhammad Buhari was attacked. This Sheikh Tahir Bauchi was attacked also in Kaduna. So within that period, there was panic. If you are going to travel, let's say from Kano to Abuja, it will take you not less than maybe 7-8 hours due to the security checkpoints. But all those security checkpoints didn't seem to have worked. I don't know, I don't have the full details of what had happened or what was happening that time, but I know one thing: when Buhari came in after he started investigating the military and the leadership, he set up a panel to unravel some of these things. One of the first discoveries that they made was a colossal sum of money, which was 2.1 billion US dollars, was allocated to the military based on the fact that the military requested that they don't have ammunition, what it takes to fight these Boko Haram insurgents. And then at the end of it, when that money was taken, what happened? The money was shared among prominent Nigerians for politics. And that is something that we never knew, that a government in Nigeria could descend to that level, betraying the trust of the people, take money that is meant to be given to armed forces to go and prosecute a war when the citizenry of Nigeria are being attacked internally, not an external war. You take 2.1 billion US dollars, not naira, 2.1 billion US dollars, and then you just share it among prominent Nigerians for the purpose of winning election. That is one aspect. And that component is not only about security, but it's also equally about corruption. Between that time to now, we have never had anything along that line. And I talk to military officers and they tell me that some of their equipments were equipments that they bought since the time of the Civil War and a little bit after the Civil War. There was a froze. All these budgets that they have been making, they will do the budgets on paper, but somehow you find corruption that has eaten deep into the system. That is one aspect. And they were controlling about, Boko Haram were controlling about 17 local governments. Now they have been so much degraded after about 4 years, where they launch attacks, yes, but they don't have the capacity to launch that audacious attacks where they will come to the capital city and attack either a barrack or an international organization or a church or a mosque. They have been confined to the area around outside Maiduguri, near the Lake Chad border and Niger border. I want to make a clarification and an explanation here. You see, Boko Haram means many things to different groups. It's not only a local Nigerian issue. You have this terrorism that is all over, in Africa, in Asia, part of Iraq, Middle East. Wherever you have American intervention or French intervention, the consequences of what happens after, you will see a group of militants has sprung up. And the killing of Gaddafi, which was a policy of like Sarkozy and Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton, has escalated and done more damage to the Sahelian countries of Africa, including Niger, Nigeria, Chad, Mali, and the rest of it. Because basically now, if you want an AK-47 in any of the border towns along Katsina, Jibia, Maiduguri, you get it like you buy chicken. So after the fall of Gaddafi, all the armory, the arms, and what have you, families now resorted to smuggling and selling them as a means of livelihood, whereas before they used to do this drug trading and other things, but now they have turned into arms. So Mr. President has substantially done very well in terms of security. We are not there yet, but he has done remarkably well. The soldiers are motivated, they are willing to fight, they have some equipment, they are still looking to get more equipment. Military procurement is not like a civilian procurement. You are dealing with nations and countries and vetting and
you're not going to take anything.
You're not just going to take off the shelf and bring it here. It has to go through multiple layers of security clearance. Even the planes that President Trump said they have agreed for Nigeria. Nigeria has paid the money, but those planes are not likely going to be in Nigeria until maybe the next 2 to 3 years. That's just the way the system is, because they are afraid. Their technology, they don't want it to be shared. Even if you go to a third country, so long as an equipment is manufactured from the United States, they have a say on where you can sell them. So that's the difficulty in that.
Let's go to the economy.
Yes. The economy, when after the election, immediately the oil price went down substantially. Venture capitalists just decided to take their money out, and there was scarcity of dollar. That was why IMF came in and said to Mr. President, well, you have to take IMF loan or World Bank loan, and he doesn't like to do that, but they rather allow the central bank to embark on a policy of allowing the dollar to float. At some point, it reached almost 500, and then at some point, then it found its balance. When we do international trading, we don't do it in naira. On paper, it could be said in naira, but when you convert, you have to do it in dollar. And Nigeria does not have enough USD to be able to fulfill all its obligations. So that was what was responsible for skyrocketing price of the dollar, because you have to sell your crude, you get paid in dollars, and then you utilize the dollars to do your international trading, and we had no money. So finally, I think it's hovering between 306 to 363. I think the official rate is still like 306, and then if you go to black market, it's 363. And then Mr. President decided to start to intervene in various sectors, refusing to take the IMF or the World Bank, and then started to prudently manage the economy, not allowing a lot of money to be in circulation unnecessarily, tighten up like in terms of salary of workers. They now decided to make this system of payment whereby ghost workers are eliminated, and I think they saved about 500 million US dollars. That's from what the payroll used to be, a substantial number of ghost workers. And then they started to intervene in the small scale industries by giving soft loans for people to establish industries. And then they did the Anchor Borrowers Program, because what Mr. President said, a big chunk of our hard currency goes to the importation of rice and other food items that we can grow over here in Nigeria. And through that Anchor Borrowers Program, I think they empowered close to 500,000 Nigerians farmers to have access to capital and to have access to equipments through the central bank so that they could go back to farm. And you can see what that has translated from Ebonyi to Kebbi. Now, at least now Nigeria can produce close to 80 or even up to 90% of the rice that we eat now are rice that are grown in Nigeria. So that money has empowered a lot of Nigerians, and several more hectares of land are being farmed. Now, if this system should continue and sustained, you will find rice milling like they are coming up, and so many other related industries are going to come up. So that was agriculture. And also he was able to cut down on the amount of money that is being spent to import other products, and which also will encourage Nigerians to look inward and come up with many creative ideas. And then the end power is targeted to the younger people, those that finish universities. Those that finish university, is not everybody will go to traditional civil service job, either a local government, state government, or federal government. Those are limited type of jobs. It's not like in the 60s and the 70s, where every person that goes to the university is looking forward to working for the government because there was need that time. Now, the system is so saturated. Education in a university should make you to have great many ideas in your head, that you can use those ideas to follow your passion, what you want to do, whether you want to be a computer expert, you want to be an entrepreneur, you want to have a restaurant, you want to have a telephone business, whatever it is that you want to do, that university education should give you a broad many ideas on what you want to do. That's what happens like in UK and US. University education is not for you to go and necessarily get employed by somebody. No, it's for you to have the ideas and the passion to now start to think and establish what exactly you want to do with your life.
Don't forget that my question really was, if I go to the polls on Saturday to cast my ballot, yes, why must I cast my ballot for Muhammad Buhari? You have explained to me about security.
Yes.
I think you've made your point. You're speaking about the economy.
Yes.
Off camera, before we enter the studio,
yes,
I said to you, it is either perception or reality.
Yeah.
Whichever it is, Nigerians feel that the times are hard.
Yeah.
And that they hold the government in power responsible for their plight.
Yes.
So when it comes to the economy, it appears that Nigerians are saying the times are hard.
Yeah.
So how will you convince them to cast the ballot based on the performance of the economy?
I agree that times are very hard for Nigerians. It goes with the explanation that I gave in terms of revenue component and the idea of what Mr. President is trying to do. He wants Nigerians to look inwards, create a level field whereby Nigerians can be able to do whatever they want to do by rebuilding our institutions. The change mantra that he has, change for what? Change from the way we do business. You change, you rebuild. We used to have great many institutions. Those institutions were destroyed by pervasive corruption. To stop that, to rebuild the institutions, to give Nigerian confidence that they can walk into any ministry and say, this is, I need information on this, and that information is provided. Simplification of how you even start your own business. Simplification of paying taxes, how you pay taxes to the government. Rebuilding of all those destroyed institutions so that Nigerians can have confidence in those institutions, and cutting down on corruption. Corruption, really, the president has said, if corruption, if Nigerians don't kill it, it will kill Nigeria. Imagine you as a businessman, you want to do something, you go to a building department, you want a permission just to start, you have your money, you want to do your building. So you have to pay, you are going to add value to the society, but you have to pay this, and this, and this, and this. At every point of your activity, you have to pay somebody.
A toll collection.
There is a toll collection that takes your interest out of it. You tell yourself, why don't I have this money, I have my passport, why don't I get my passport and go to South Africa?
Are we addressing that issue?
It's being addressed, yes. It's being addressed. And you will agree with me, that Nigerians will agree with me, that corruption has substantially come down. And for the first time, we are having people that own properties in Abuja and other areas that they are denying, civil servants, for instance, and some prominent politicians, they are denying that they don't own those properties. So what Mr. President is doing is to let Nigerians know it's very easy to destroy a house. It's like you had a house, a beautiful house with family, and you put somebody to head it, and those people decided to burn the house down. So rebuilding that house is a very difficult and Herculean task. Mr. President is laying that foundation slow and steady, slow and steady.
Now, you see, I have a worry here.
Yeah.
From your presentation,
Yeah.
it appears that the president is sincere.
Yes.
And the president is honest.
Yes.
But Nigerians do not get to be told this in understandable terms.
Yes.
What they know is what they feel.
Yeah.
As the truth.
Yeah, I agree. But you see, like he said the other day, I was watching him, he said when he was a military leader, he came in, everybody was guilty until proven innocent. He locked everybody up except two people that were cleared. One Adamu Chiroma and one somebody from another state, I forgot his name. But then he said he himself was removed, was detained for 3.5 years, and then all those properties were returned to those people. Not only those properties, illegally gotten properties were returned to them. Some of them were even made ministers again under the Babangida's dispensation. But he said now, a democracy is different from a military system. In a democracy, president can't come fiat and said, this must take place, and then it goes like that. You have the Senate, you have the judiciary. If he infringe on the rights of an ordinary citizen, that person will go to the judiciary. He set up this asset recovery something under one barrister Obla. You know, they look at a civil servant who had 40 cars and so many houses. You know, remember the story. And those guys went to court. And the court said that thing that the president did, that tribunal is null and void. So
not known to law.
Not known to law. So he has to start all over again. This is like, we're talking of 3 years. So it's a really slow, painstaking problem. Even if not Buhari, if it's somebody else that will come again, will also experience these systematic problems. Nigerians should understand that. In a military dictatorship, you can come in by decree, you do this, you do this, you do, everybody will hail you. But this is a democracy. It's a very slow process. You can see how the Senate and the House of Reps refuse to cooperate with him. There are many bills that he has sent which will empower Nigerians and will give them access to better things. But the Assembly refused to even give it a first reading.
Let me be unkind to
Yes.
you. You permit me to be unkind to you.
Okay, go ahead.
The president has the image of a frugal and prudent
Yes.
manager.
Yeah.
Conversely,
Yeah.
people say no. That he is an angry citizen who is interested in reducing everybody to a low level in the economy, and he spreads hardship and poverty.
No, I think it's an unfair characterization. He may be frugal and austere in his ways, but his basic and major constituency is the ordinary Nigerians. I belong to that category of people. and I hope you are also in that category as an ordinary citizen. That is his basic constituency. You look at the other side. What are they saying? They are saying we have sold the assets of government before, properties, NEPA, airways, and all this, right? And then we have empowered some people, and those other people have employed Nigerians. So it's like what they call trickle-down economics in the American system between the Republicans and Democrats. Republicans will always say, we will come, we make money, we cut down on taxes that big business and big companies pay, and when they do that, they will hire more people to be like their workers. That's that other side. They say they want to come back again and sell off NNPC, Port Authority, and all those other revenue generating agencies on behalf of the federal government. I mean, the other candidate even said it openly. There is nothing wrong. He's going to do it to his friends. You know,
But
so
he said he'll privatize.
he will privatize it, yeah, to his friends. He specifically mentioned his friends. So after giving them, and then they make that money, then the rest of Nigerians will have something. But if you look at Mr. President said, no, I am going to embark on policies and programs that will empower you and I, that will create a field for you so that you can be elevated from your status to another level, so that a young graduate who just left university and has a brilliant idea and does not have the means and the way to have capital to establish that whatever idea he has, will have access to some form of capital and be guided to be able to establish that which he has. Whereas in the previous system, no matter how brilliant you are with your idea, you have to go through the big somebody, maybe sell the idea to a big businessman, and he exploit you, take the idea, maybe hire you for a while and get you out. So in other words, what Mr. President is trying to do is to empower ordinary Nigerians through programs like this market money that people are talking about. There are some people in the market, they have never seen collectively 50,000 naira in their lifetime, but they have been doing business all their life for 20, 30 years. When you empower a tailor that has one machine, he gets the second machine, he gets the third, he gets the fourth. It's an expanding population. So that level field that Mr. President is trying to do is what is going to help Nigeria. And I think he is on the right track, using agriculture, using N-Power to the graduates, using small-scale businesses, and using National Directorate of Unemployment or Employment. You've seen them visible. This is the first time we have seen that agency that is going all over. Yeah, that is being revived, vibrant. You know, this Dr. Nasser, who is heading that agency. So those are the kind of things that Mr. President wants to do. And again, also public education. In you and I, your generation, sir, and my generation, some of us went to good public schools, primary schools, with excellent teachers from all across Nigeria. Now that system seems to have been killed. You have a lot of private schools. I'm not against or averse to private schools, but side by side, public schools. What makes America great, in my opinion, great public education system, primary and secondary, free of charge. Those systems have been killed all across Nigeria, more so especially along the northern Nigeria. Poor teachers that are unqualified, they are hired. Schools that are not schools, there are no desks and no chairs. Even teaching of history that used to be taught, civic education, social studies, and history, for some reason 2009 or there 2000 and something, one minister came, I don't know, they removed it. Now history has been brought back to the curriculum. So Mr. President is so committed. I give you an example, UBEC, which is an agency that intervenes to give boost to primary education. But a state governor has to give a counterpart funding So what happens, there are many state governors that they don't give that portion, but they just want the agency to send the money to them. This is the first time that the president said to the agency, we know some of these governors. He ordered that the money, instead of going to the governor, any governor who will not give that money, they will now say, how much is it? Is it 50 billion? Is it 10 billion? Is it 700 million? If they say yes, he gives directive that that money should be drawn from the source out of the revenue of that state because of his concern for primary education. Dams.
Bello, I want to, now you're mentioning dams. Let me ask you a question that I'm passionate about.
Yes, yeah.
Coincidentally, the president is a Fulani.
Yes.
And the question I'm going to ask him concerns the Fulani.
Yes.
Does it occur to Muhammad Buhari that the Fulani in Nigeria are the only set of Nigerians who are landless and stateless?
Yes.
Is it right? I asked you at the beginning of this conversation that what should be driving this campaign?
Yeah.
Nigeria imports dairy products from UK, from Argentina, from Holland.
Yeah.
Yet we have a segment of our society that by tradition knows the in and out of dairy business.
Yes.
We leave them as cultural artifacts.
Yes.
Landless.
Yes.
Stateless.
Yes.
And they are no longer drivers of our economy, part of the drivers of our economy.
Yeah.
With the worsening situation in the Chad Basin, they have become a problem to themselves and to some sections of the country.
Yeah.
Is the president afraid, or doesn't he realize that in the next 100 years, the Fulani person will have a very big headache?
Yeah.
Is he thinking for now and not against tomorrow? I'm asking you.
Yeah, he is. The Fulani issue has been with us for generations. And I'm glad we are having this conversation and this debate now. And I can assure you and I can assure Nigerians that Mr. President is absolutely and fully aware in terms of the flight of the Fulani. But remember, we have professional politicians and mischief makers. If Mr. President were to come out and say, remember when the minister, as an example, said, how are we going to have grazing reserves? Somebody just coined the word colony. You know, like, I mean, you see, we told you he's Fulani. He's trying to establish cattle colony all over. Even governors, can you imagine a state governor coming out to say, not in his land to have a colony? There's like either they link it up with a jihad, or these people are taking over, or they talk of Usman Danfodio and all this. I mean, Danfodio was a recent phenomenon, 1804. Before 1804, they had always been there were Fulanis wandering around and all these things. So I think it's that aspect of blackmail that some professional mischief makers that make money out of it, like the case in Benue, where a non-Fulani guy who is an advisor to the governor, well armed, doing some killings, blaming it on the Fulani, even killing some priests, you know, until when I think the military formation fished him out based on conversations and evidence. You have all this type of things around places like Taraba and Benue and all this. But having said that, it's good that this issue is becoming a very big national question. And I think in the second term of the president, you're going to see how this issue is going to be addressed. And I am confident, like from the discussions that I have discussed with Minister of Agriculture and something like that, they are working on some things quietly. They are engaging some prominent Nigerians, and there will be a solution to that, because if you empower these Fulanis, you talk about, disempowerment in terms of they just become like cultural icons.
What about reducing them?
Even in terms of education. Even in terms of education. They don't have, some of them don't go to primary schools. They don't go to secondary schools. They are running from place to place. Sometimes where they were, they moved and then they come back. Somebody has established a farm there. Even though they have been settling in that place for like generations upon generations, so they know this bush like they know the back of their hands. I'm aware that something is being done, and they will contact all the necessary stakeholders in Nigeria to make sure that these people are permanently and finally considered as Nigerian citizens who should also have access to clean water, to good education, and get empowerment, so that
and to land,
and to land also. Incidentally, my family too is Fulani, but we settled among the houses like 200 and something years. It's a painful story. It's a painful
that
situation.
Needs to be thought through.
Exactly. And the address of the Great Green Wall, which this government is passionately pursuing, to establish a Great Green Wall so that it can reverse or slow down the process of desertification. This thing is given prominence. The Lake Chad thing, the president that has been conversing and talking and pleading for European countries and America to help in the shrinking Lake Chad, because that affects like almost 60 million Africans, Nigerians, Niger, Chad. And I think for the first time now, Italy has agreed to give the money for the feasibility studies, whereby they will transfer how they can get the water from Congo River down to Lake Chad, because the place is rich, used to be rich in agriculture and fish and other things, and that was also one component that has affected the emergence or the rebellion that has translated into Boko Haram rebellion in that area now. So he is aware, and I am aware that they are working with experts, local and international, to see how that can be addressed. And not only that, all other issues, including those who are clamoring for restructuring and all this.
I'll come to that as my last question, but there's something else also that bothers me. I'm told, I've not seen completely, that some areas of Borno State, especially those areas bordering Cameroon and all that, there are areas that people have never seen a government official. In Cross River State, I'm told the same thing. In parts of Kogi State, I'm told the same thing. In other words, there are some Nigerians for whom government and governance do not exist. Thus, when you look at the body language of Muhammad Buhari, is he aware? Does it bother him? Is it part of his own humanistic thinking that it is wrong for any Nigerian anywhere in the 21st century not to have heard, not to have felt, not to have benefited from government and governance?
He is a very passionate Nigerian, just like you. Passionate in justice, to establish, to make sure justice is done in all situations. Very passionate in making sure that Nigerians have access to education. Very passionate in making sure that Nigerians have access to clean water. I tell you a story. When he was governor of Borno State, these are people that were in that state. What he used to do, he used to drive out, just unannounced, go to a village, just to see what type of primary school they have, what are the challenges they have, whether it's they have water or they don't have water. You know, that's him. Sometimes he will just go and then he stay and people will talk, and he won't say a word. Maybe ask one or two questions and he will go back. And that creates permanent impression in his mind.
In the minds of the people.
In the mind, yes, and his own mind. And that's what is really driving him, you know, to where he is. And I tell you also, he is so much concerned about all those places that you mentioned where governance and government don't even exist. And how you should know this is this. Promises were made to, I think, was Super Eagle, that when you go, you win a cup, you get this. Different governments have come and go. Nobody cares. It was only him that decided and said this was an institutional promise made to these Nigerians. It's the responsibility of the government to fulfill it. The Nigerian Airways workers, the workers of defunct NEPA, and so many other businesses or governmental agencies that was sold, liquidated, some people dismissed, some people retired but no pension. I used to have a friend, Mr. Julius, from Edo State. He's in the US, he's in his 60s now, maybe 65, 66. He never got his pension. It was only under this administration that he did a screening in New York. And he called me, he said, if you have access to Mr. President, please thank him on my behalf. And, you know, I'm praying for him because he was so emotional about it. It's an institutional promise you were made. We hired you. When you work X number of years, you have these benefits and pension. But somebody just decide that that is no longer important. And you can see all he has done within the last 3 years is trying to rectify those things. That's what part of the rebuilding of our own institution, which he is doing. And if he's allowed to continue along that line, you and I know, even if it's you that they take to an agency, when there are issues like that, you're going to treat it without any fear or favor. That's what is expected of you. So Mr. President is a very passionate person that is so concerned. And, you know, Cross Rivers, Kogi, Borno, that's also can go in another way as an argument for those calling for restructuring. Here you are as a governor, but you don't even know the people. You don't know they exist. You don't do anything for them, but you are shouting all the time, you want restructuring. But your basic responsibility, you don't try to fulfill it within your state. Just like the Kano issue that are talking about. I mean, they saw the governor putting money in his pocket. And some people are saying, the president should do this, should do that. What will the president do? You calling on restructuring. Restructuring basically means allow the state to do a lot of things maybe that the federal government does. You have state assembly, you have the judiciary, you have citizens of Kano. This crime, if it's a crime, took place in Kano, right? Why don't the legislators and the people in that state take this issue up, go to court, challenge him, try to impeach him? Why will Mr. President speak from Lagos, from Abuja to Kano and say you have to do this, you have to do that? Yeah, that's dictatorship. We have seen that when Obasanjo was there, where he will constitute like 5 members of a state assembly out of 28 to impeach a sitting governor. It has happened. Ingige in Anambra, Darie in Plateau, it has happened. But this president is, by the time, I hope history will record him sometimes as the most democratic president. There are people calling for state of emergency in Zamfara now. But you see, constitutionally, when you look at it, without the action of the state assembly and all these things, that cannot stand. Under our present constitution, it will be illegal under our constitution. So I assure Nigerians and you that Mr. President is a very passionate Nigerian and concerned about the welfare of each and every Nigerian. And he loves young people because he loves them to do well.
Yeah,
Yes.
I do not want you to go away without our touching the matter of restructuring. I'm going to touch it from two dimensions.
Yes.
It may not be Muhammad Buhari,
Yeah.
but the APC administration,
Yes.
which Muhammad Buhari leads, in the course of the 2015 election,
Yes.
promised that they restructure Nigeria.
Yes.
It is either
Yeah.
that we don't understand their own meaning of restructuring,
Yeah.
but up to now, Nigerians are still expecting them to fulfill that promise. In other words, why has President Muhammad Buhari failed to deliver on the promise of his party to restructure Nigeria?
I don't think he failed to deliver. I think if you recall, the APC set up a committee on restructuring. I think headed by Nasir El-Rufai and somebody else and one other governor. And I think they went round, they had the views of Nigerians, whether they are members of their parties and others, and I think they have submitted their report. And there is also the Jonathan's report, I think is there. There is also the report of prominent Nigerians led by Alex Ikwemi, late Alex Ikwemi, Professor, this guy, Ben Wabozi and Anyoku, and prominent Nigerians from all across. Bulaji Akinyemi, Tankwaya Kasemebi, and the rest of them, and the report is there. There is also the constitutional component. There is a provision in the Constitution on how to do that. And it will require an act of the National Assembly. What some of us are saying, no government cedes sovereignty to a group of unelected people. You can debate and discuss these issues. You see, if really Nigeria must restructure, it will take an act of constitutional amendment and act from the National Assembly. Are we getting that? If we are going to get that, that's where the debate should take place with all these other reports. If we are going to get that from the National Assembly, I don't think if the National Assembly can come up with, two-thirds majority and say this is what we have this act, I tell you that restructuring, the president will not take a day longer necessary to sign it into law. But we are not getting that. And another thing is, even without restructuring, some people are saying go back to regionalism, merge some states. I don't see Imo and Anambra ever merging. I don't see Katsina and Kaduna ever merging again. You see, this idea of those who are calling we need 50 states, we need this number of states, is ridiculous. I tell you what, when Kaduna was split in 1987, I think, Katsina and Kaduna, it gave birth to what? Zaria and Katsina, northern part of Kaduna state today, and Katsina, culturally speaking, religiously speaking,
they're homogeneous.
They are homogeneous. Southern part of Kaduna, we used to know as Southern Zaria, but they don't like Southern Zaria, they say Southern Kaduna. It's mixed. You have variety of tribes and languages and religion. Predominantly Christian, yes, but a substantial Muslims also there. Indigenous, some of the Muslims, there are some Fulanis there, but there are some Muslims among all the tribes. Like in a family, you find this is Muslim, this is Christian, this is this. After the creation of Katsina State, Kaduna now start to have problem again between southern part of Kaduna and northern part of Kaduna. Now they are saying we want our own state. Now when you break that state again, the trouble that you're going to run into is going to be like Muslims and Christians within that state. The same thing with Kogi and any other state. In
other words, when are we going to end splitting?
When are we going to end splitting and splitting and splitting? Good programs, Governors, responsible governors that give good governance and good leadership is the way to go. Like driver's license, I don't support the idea of you have to centrally come to Abuja to get a driver's license. Every state, I think, is within the constitution that every state can do certain things along that line. This all the time, this national.
Shehu, in other words, some devolution of responsibilities, but that will also mean devolution of resources.
Yes. Yes.
Will the federal government willing to shun some of its powers and some of its...
The federal government is taking probably less than maybe 50% of the resources of Nigeria. The states are sharing the rest. Whatever happened to generating or creating an environment where you could generate revenue? Whatever happened to that? Through taxation and some other things. As a country, Nigeria, I probably think we pay the least amount of taxes. You find somebody who drives ₦1 million or 10 million naira car. He lives in a house that is worth 200 million. His spending habits over the year run into millions. But probably when you see his tax papers, you could see like he pay like 5,000 or 20,000 or something like that. Really. So it comes to getting citizens to know what their responsibilities are. Paying of taxes is civic responsibility. We have to create a taxation system whereby you tax, you get that money, and then you utilize that money to build on your own society. States like Lagos, I think they are doing that.
I want to thank you very much for coming to our signature interview. And just remind us that Mohammed Bello Shehu, simply called MB Shehu, is a public affairs analyst. He has passion for the success of governments in Africa, and incidentally, on the home front, he is a sympathizer and supporter of President Muhammad Buhari. I did not allow him to be too partisan because the issue that we discussed today cut across parties. We hope that his input, his intervention today, will help us continue the conversation, and eventually we'll find our bearing and our answer. So let me, on your behalf, thank Mohammed Bello Shehu for coming to Signature Interview today. Bello, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Bless you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Let's see again. We'll be featuring this conversation both online and on AIT. It will be a regular feature. We get interesting people, bring them in to weigh in on a number of national issues. And please follow us on all our social media handles, both on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, on YouTube, that you can watch this program again and again. And please, let's have a feedback from you so that the conversation can keep going. Let's thank you for investing your time with us. Good afternoon.